Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo. One of the hottest teams in mid-major basketball, the Bison women. Jory Collins joins us to preview the conference home opener tonight, plus the movings and goings in the FCS and the portal. Hot Mic begins now.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. I was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to we finally have football edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning everybody in Sioux Falls, KMBN in Western South Dakota, and all parts in between at Inforum.com. Happy Thursday, everybody. Well, full week into 2026, so that's it. The cutoff is over. For those of you that still say Happy New Year, that's it. It's over. You can maybe like till noon today is your last time, and then it's donezo. We're a full week into the year. You can't say it after that. That's at least the rule here in this studio. And if anything breaks that, they will be firmly punished on that. Welcome to the show on this Thursday morning. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program, ready to rock and roll on a busy Thursday. This is the start. For you freaks out there, I'm probably part of you. 5 consecutive days of football start today. We've got the college football playoff semifinal. First one tonight between Ole Miss and Miami being played at the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. Tomorrow night, Indiana and Oregon in the Peach Bowl. And then, of course, we've got NFL games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So this is... if you're looking for, this is the perfect few days here to get you ready with the games that mean something here after we slog through Week 18 of the NFL season with some games that were just absolute dogs. That is not the case here over the next few days. And we'll get to that coming up here in the next little bit. There's plenty of movement. Now, guys have entered the portal. We're T-minus a week left of that. A week from tomorrow is when that'll officially close. If you're not in by now, you're likely not going to go. That's because we knew the rush leading up. Obviously, that began, for some around Thanksgiving. Others in early December. Others were after Christmas. We had Devin Kleiman discuss that yesterday here on the show. On the Bison Media Center. If you missed that, it was a really good conversation we had there yesterday on that was the real concern when guys were going to leave and then for the holiday and then come back, that was the quote-unquote worry time for them. So as of now, if you haven't decided yet, you're likely going to stay. Now, there's 7 days to determine that. Now, on the flip side, guys that went in have decided where they're going. And we'll update you on numerous destinations on a few players coming up later on in the show. Outside of the fact, if you're playing in a championship game, like Montana State, Illinois State we're doing on Monday, there's been, I won't say a rash, well, there's been a good amount on both sides of Montana State and Illinois State players that have decided to enter the portal, which we'll dive into as well. For the teams that are playing in the big boy division, they'll have another 5 days. So the national championship game is not till a week from Monday, the 19th, which is just absurd. Then the 20th through the 24th, the teams that are playing there, they'll have a 5-day window, much like the Bison had that last year. when they made it to Frisco. That was before we had this window in January. So that's the latest on that. It is a basketball night. Here we go. We started Summer League play last week, and we've got hoops coming up tonight. Bison men are in Kansas City. We previewed that earlier in the week. The Bison women have their home conference opener tonight. We'll get to that coming up later on the show. But as we know, since this new fangled schedule that came out last year with 9 teams, that they're trying to, quote-unquote, move away a little bit from mirror scheduling, so you get some games on a Wednesday. We did last night, and we have not had a chance to see the St. Thomas men play yet. Last night, they were at home in their brand-new $100+ million arena taking on the University of South Dakota, and I'm here to tell you, they can play, folks. St. Thomas is, and I know USD is incredibly shorthanded, and they took advantage of that in a big-time way last night. That's Isaiah Johnson-Origu scoring. He's the transfer from both Miami and Iowa. They've got weapons all over the place. This is Jermaine Coleman dishing the finish down low. I mean, Johnson-Origu is at 25 points in 26 minutes off the bench. There's Jermaine Coleman. He had back-to-back threes to blow this game open. Here the lead was 15. They got it back to 18 middle part of the second half. We haven't even featured a couple of their main guys. One of them, Nolan Minasali. There's Johnson-Origu knocking out another three. He was a fantastic high school player that got big-time offers, ended up coming back to the state of Minnesota, and that might be bad news for the Summit League. There's Nolan Minasali. We've known what he can do, who is the preseason player of the year pick, the hammer on the finish there. He had 22 points last night. St. Thomas cruises 99 to 86 in the final in a game that probably wasn't even that close. You see Minasali's stat line, 22 points and 12 assists in the St. Thomas win. So here are the up-to-date standings now in the Summit League after last night's play. You've got St. Thomas out in front with its second league win. They only played one game last week. That was the win over Denver they had on Sunday. There you see North Dakota State and North Dakota, each of them at 2-0 in league play. Denver, South Dakota State, and Kansas City are each at 1-1. South Dakota, it's going to be a tough year for Eric Peterson's team. We know that simply because of the manpower that they do not have at 0-2. Omaha, surprising 0-2, and on Oral Roberts, who nearly beat North Dakota State, now at 0-2 as well. Here are the games coming up tonight. We mentioned we got one game already off the board with St. Thomas beating USD. The Bison heading to take on Kansas City. Intrigued on that one. Kansas City is what they are. They're 4-12, right? But they're 1-9 on the road. They play better at home, and I put better in quotation marks, but I'm intrigued to see how this North Dakota State team goes away from home and maybe handle some success that they had, especially how the way they won on Saturday over ORU. These games are traditionally rock fights with the Marvin Menzies team that will want to muck it up. We'll see what happens there. Denver at South Dakota State. Let's start that game as maybe the game of the night on the men's side. I think Denver, I know I might be wrong on this. That's not the first time. I think Denver is better than what people are giving credit for. Let's see. They lost at St. Thomas, and there's no shame in that. St. Thomas is pretty darn good. Against the Jacks team that is 1-1, they beat Omaha to start league play, which is a good win for them, and then lost rather surprisingly in Grand Forks on Saturday. So we'll see how the Jacks bounce back tonight. And then UND and Omaha is a really intriguing game. I don't know if I would have thought that about two and a half weeks ago, considering UND was scuffling, but the Fighting Hawks won both games at home. Nice win over SDSU. And now an Omaha team that badly needs a win. You don't want to start 0-3. And the Mavs are beat up for the reigning league champs. So that's on the men's side tonight. On the women's side, here are the standings after the opening week of play. North Dakota State and South Dakota State each on top at 2-0. You've got South Dakota sitting there at 1-0. The Coyotes only played one game last week and won that. We're interested to see what Carrie Amy's team's got going in Vermilion this year. After that, Oral Roberts, Denver, and Kansas City are each 1-1. And I went through the net rankings here on the women's side. It's not pretty, I'll say that. St. Thomas lost to South Dakota. They're 0-1. And then the Fighting Hawks and Omaha rounding out at 0-2. Right now, the Bison and the Jacks have set themselves clearly apart from everybody else. You see North Dakota State with an 11-game win streak going. The Jacks they finished overall at 10-4 in non-conference play, and they played some heavy hitters here through the non-con. Here's the games tonight on the women's side. It's a busy night, 4 games. Mentioned the Bison in Kansas City coming up. We have that game for you here on Extra. Denver is at St. Thomas tonight. I'm not sure how good either team is there. Omaha at UND. Somebody's got to get a victory there. Each team is at 0-2. Combined, those two teams have won 5 basketball games this year. Not good. Just pointing out facts here. And Oral Roberts goes to USD. We saw the Bison knocked off ORU last week. And South Dakota, as we mentioned, has that one victory over St. Thomas. So that is the lineup of games across the league tonight. And I'm intrigued to see, again, we're 1 week in. We got a long way to go before we even get talking about March and positioning and bracketology, even though we're going to do that because that's what sports talk shows are going to do. But St. Thomas, watching that, and if you saw the highlights that we just showed you here, they have clearly established themselves as, all right, they're good. They got guys all over the place. I think the Bison are pretty good on the men's side I'm talking here. After that, I think South Dakota State has got some pieces there. And that's probably the 3 after that. I think Denver is somewhere. We'll see how that team continues to come together, if they can be in the mix. But after that, Omaha is beat up right now. South Dakota doesn't have the manpower. Oral Roberts is still a couple players away. UND could be the fly in the ointment. We'll see about that. Paul Sather's team had a nice start. After a brutal non-conference play, they got 2 nice wins there on the men's side. But the net rankings, and that's something I follow because that based on who you've beaten, who you've lost to, strength of your league, and that's how that formula comes out. The net rankings have St. Thomas is number 1, North Dakota State at number 2, and then there's a pretty precipitous drop-off after that to the Jackrabbits at 3, and then it really falls off the table. So we'll see. That's the intriguing part. For basketball now on this level, with the amount of movement, coaches think, well, about 9, 10, 11 games to figure out where you're at. So now they know where they're at. And can you go and, if you're the Bison, pick up a good road win? If you're the Jackrabbits, can you hold serve at home? We'll find out. But it's going to be fun to follow. We'll do that every Friday morning to start our show here going forward. Will be basically our summit recap of what's going on around the conference. Looking forward to doing that here over the next 6-7 weeks as the league schedule gets underway. We got a packed show coming up for you here today. I'm really interested coming up later on in our first hour. There's a column out of Laramie, Wyoming on a topic that was brought up during the Montana State semifinal about the future of what Wyoming football should be and if the Cowboys should drop down to FCS. Our colleague Mike McFeely wrote about it a little bit yesterday at Inforum.com. We're going to dive into this a bit more because there's another columnist out of Laramie that wrote about it and talked to Tom Berman, the Wyoming athletic director, on exactly the future of that. So we'll dive into that coming up later on in our show because I think knowing full well Wyoming's a member of the Mountain West Conference and there's comparison there with Idaho did that obviously we've documented that fully, that Idaho was an FBS member, was a member of the Sun Belt. They got asked to leave the Sun Belt Conference. They dropped down to FCS, and we know what's happened since then. It's a different scenario with Wyoming. We'll get into that coming up later on in the show. Our guest lineup today is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Our usual Thursday lineup of guests, Sam Goetzinger will join us at 10 o'clock. back on his normal sleep schedule, though we have to address the 19 Starbucks cans that are in the garbage next to me. We'll do that coming up at 10. Jory Collins will join us as well at 10:35. North Dakota State women's basketball head coach. The Bison have won 11 consecutive games. They got a date tonight with a team that has been a thorn in the side, Kansas City. You'll remember the Roos eliminated the Bison from the Summer League tournament last year. They did it 2 years before that. This is a team, you're going to look at their record like, well, the Bison should win handily. That has not been the case in matchups with the Roos. We'll talk to Jory about that coming up at 10:30. That and a heck of a lot more here over the next hour and 40 minutes or so. We'll take our first break. When we come back, the Bison football players have somewhat made their future destinations known. We'll chat about that and a couple other players hopping in the portal as well. Thursday morning edition of Hot Mic is off and rolling. We're back on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KNBN, and Inforum.com after this. Welcome back, everybody. Thursday morning show off and rolling. All right. So I guess I'm going to guess on this, that people are interested when we find out that certain Bison players are going to enter the transfer portal. I think, to me, I'm always intrigued to see where they end up. And this is for fans as well to determine, was this worth heading in? Yesterday, we had a slew of players make it official on where they're going to be spending next college football season. Now, we know 7 total starters have entered. That's not all of the players that have gone in. There's been a couple of backups as well, or guys that weren't going to play from North Dakota State that enter the transfer portal. Of the starters, we've known of a couple of destinations. Eli Ozick, the kicker, is going to go kick for Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. That was the first one. Toby Anene, the great defensive end, is going to go play for Deion Sanders at Colorado. Now we can add 3 more destinations. Jalen Duffy, the outstanding corner, all-conference selection this season, is going to go play at Central Florida in the American Athletic Conference. That was announced yesterday. Duffy going to join up with his old cornerbacks coach, Will Johnson, who went there. So he's heading there along with Trent Fraley. Fraley is going to head into the Big Ten to play at Michigan State. Each of these players went into the portal last week. Duffy, as I mentioned, all-league selection, cornerback that hails out of the Chicago area that became a starter over the last 2 seasons at corner and developed into a really, really good player. He's going to go play now for his old coach at Central Florida in the American Athletic Conference. Good league there, and you're based in Orlando. Fraley is heading back, basically, I'll say, quote-unquote, home. Obviously, his dad is the still offensive line coach of the Detroit Lions, and after there were rumors that potentially he would go to Iowa State, maybe meet up with Tyler Roll, who, of course, now is the offensive coordinator of the Cyclones. Fraley will play his final season in the Big Ten at Michigan State. Became an All-American this season. Started all, was the games here, 29 games he played for North Dakota State after transferring in from Marshall. Became an All-League and All-American player for the Bison. So those two are heading to Central Florida and to Michigan State. Now, I know the exact dollar amount is something that Jeff Kolpak wrote about earlier this week, and we talked about it on Monday's show on the amount that these guys are going to get. That is to be, I think, discussed between cornerback and offensive lineman, in particular center, not as much as what our next guy we're going to talk about, but they're not getting chump change. Let's just say that. That's going to be somewhere in the high 5 to 6 figure range is what each of those players are going to get. It's more than what they could get at North Dakota State. That's just the bare bones on that. Now the other player, and this is the one I think that we all anticipated that was going to get a lot of heat on him, and of course he ended up deciding to go last week, is All-American left tackle Bo Johnson. And he's heading to the Southeastern Conference, and he'll play for the Vanderbilt Commodores next season. He announced yesterday that he signed with Vandy. And now I think some of the outsiders say, Vanderbilt, they're not very good. Well, I'm here to tell you, Vanderbilt was good last year. in the ultra-competitive Southeastern Conference. They're a year removed from beating Alabama, which they took the goalpost down at First Bank Stadium after they won. Vandy this season went 6-2 in the SEC, finished 10-3 overall. One of 7 teams in that league that won double-digit games. They are serious about their football. Their NIL, from what I'm told, is not to be trifled with. Private school that can certainly pay for players if they want to. Now, after being there, seeing what they've done with their facilities and what they want to do with football, this makes a heck of a lot of sense. And if you're a guy like Bo, you want to challenge yourself, think that you can be an NFL draft pick, playing in the Southeastern Conference is certainly a way to go. Now, I understand it, and I didn't have time to talk about this. I wasn't on the show last week when all these guys announced their departure, that you can argue, well, wait a minute, offensive lineman leaving NDSU, both he and Fraley, you can get to the National Football League out of Fargo. We saw that. We've seen it over for the last decade plus, from Billy Turner to Gray Zabel and all the names in between. Specifically Gray, obviously he was a first-round draft pick last year. And that is all accurate. But this is about each individual and each individual's story / family / people around them. I would tell you, we've gotten to know the Zabel family really well. The structure around Gray, I think, allowed for him to say, I'm going to stay loyal. Because I will tell you this, I visited with Mark Zabel, Gray's dad. We were in Vermillion, South Dakota, after the Bison had beaten USD in the playoffs. So December of 2023. And he said, Dom, it's crazy right now. The amount of people that are reaching out to me that are trying to reach out to Gray is unbelievable. Like, he's being offered sums of money that you would not believe. And this is before, it was the day before that Matt Entz was going to depart to go to USC. And that's when it started. I think, to me, we had heard about it. Then it dawned on me, like, okay, this is real. And obviously Zabel decided to stay. He forego the sums of money that were being talked about probably with Bo that Gray easily could have got. But that's not for every individual scenario. Bo Johnson is in a different boat here. Clearly a different background, clearly a different I think, again, the amount of money that is thrown at these guys, if you're 19, 20, 21 years old, is life-changing. It just frankly is. And who are you to say that you would turn that down? Loyalty is all fine and good until the check is in front of you. And I get, the negative people out there say, well, okay, or I don't want to say negative. The realists out there would say, okay, how much are the athlete actually going to get after the agent takes its chunk? That's all fair and good. That is a fair question. Couldn't tell you on that, considering there are some that are, I'll say it, real scumbags out there that are trying to rake these kids over the coals and giving them horrendous advice. I don't believe that's the situation here surrounding Bo. I think he got the kind of advice to say, you're going to be a starter. You wouldn't leave to go to that place to get the sum of money that likely he's going to get and not be a starting player. And that's not guaranteed, for a lot of these guys that go. They're going to be saying, hey, you're going to go and you're going to get this amount of money. Well, playing time isn't necessarily part of that agreement that you're signing. And that's the slippery slope, I think, for a lot of these guys that end up deciding to leave. That being said, it's not, and that's the whole thing, it's not the same scenario for every guy that decides to stay as opposed to the ones that decide to leave. And you can't begrudge them. I don't. You tip your cap and say, good luck, and see what happens. Some get good advice. I mean, Marquise Siegel decided to leave right before the playoffs. Remember that, of November of 2022. And he had played, I don't know if he had played as much as Bo Johnson had played. Obviously, Bo started every game this past season, was an All-American. Marquise was a good player, and he ended up leaving, goes to the portal, plays for 2 years, becomes an all-league player at Kansas State, becomes a starter for the Wildcats, gets drafted into the National Football League, becomes a really good contributor for the San Francisco 49ers. He was starting to start this season for the 49ers. That's a positive success story, right? That's probably a number one out there. You look at the more recent guys that have left. Eli Green came to mind. And because I got a message about that, about how Eli would have fit in here over the last 2 years with Tim Polassek's offense. And you remember Eli went through Polassek's first spring ball way back in March of 2024. I say way back now, but it is almost 2 full years ago. And he decided to leave in that spring portal window and went to Iowa State. And obviously he got his money's worth there in terms of he got paid. There's no doubt about it. But the ability to play football beyond college, I don't know if that was going to happen even at North Dakota State. Eli's not the biggest guy ever, but he ended up, stat-wise, it was not obviously what I think he even envisioned. And granted, he went to a place, and people know this maybe better than I do, that Iowa State had 2 dudes in front of him. Eli finished, he played 25 games. He had 21 receptions for 239 yards and didn't catch a touchdown. And that's tough. You know, I don't know. Did he get bad advice? I don't know. Is it a bad move? That's not for me to say. Statistically wise, it would be easy to slam dunk and say, yeah, that didn't pan out. What it could have been if he decided to stay and play with Bryce Lance and play with a guy like Cam. Because you look at the end of 2023, he and Cam Miller were right. I mean, he had a dominant run there from, I'm going to say, the last 4 games of the regular season and the 3 playoff games. Excuse me. He was tremendous. He was the Bison playmaker down the field, and thought, boy, the sky's the limit maybe for him to come back in 2024 with Cam Miller coming back. And you had no idea that Bryce Lance was going to go and do his thing. It is what it is. And though for every Marquise Siegel storyline that's out there, there's probably 4 or 5 more like this. And you know what? You got to go take your shot. If you want to go and get paid, fine. But know that there are pitfalls that come with it as well. And that's the tough part about it. I just don't know how much great advice is being given to the athletes out there. And I bring this up because Illinois State is going through this now as well. We featured it on Monday's show. Dylan Lord was the best player on the field Monday night. I really thought so. He had 13 receptions Monday night in the FCS title game for Illinois State. Yesterday, he's in the portal. And you watch his highlights here. Lord was a great, great receiver. And now he's going to go test out to see where he can go. 74 receptions, 734 yards, 5 touchdowns. Of course, he had the 2 scores and 161 yards of the national championship game. This is so similar to what Bryce Lance went through last year in the FCS title game. And I thought about this last night. Bryce was unstoppable last year against Montana State. And everybody came out of the woodwork that week after the title game because they wanted him. And he decided to stay. Dylan Lord, everybody's watching this game. Hopefully we're going to get the ratings sometime today of what the viewership was. But everybody's at home watching number 4 tear it up. And I don't blame him one bit. If he gets an opportunity to go, then you got to go find out what's out there. But that did not surprise me one bit. Can he be an impact FBS guy? We'll find out. He's not the biggest guy. That's the risk you run on having a standout game, everybody watching. Okay, we'll see what happens on the back end. He's 5'9", 185. At that size and speed, you got to be an absolute game breaker. Speed-wise, you got to be able to, because to go up to the next level, I mean, there's a reason, frankly, he was at Illinois State. Top-notch recruiting by the Redbirds, absolutely, to get him out of Arizona. To be a game breaker at the next level, is he? He was really good. We'll find out. That's the intriguing part about it. Let's break. We come back. Want to dive into the column out of Laramie. The Cowboys' future in the Mountain West Conference and why some think moving to FCS would be the option for them. Hot Mike rolls on. Thursday morning spectacular. We're back after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thursday morning show rolls on. Jory Collins in about an hour will join us. North Dakota State women's basketball head coach. Bison winners of 11 in a row, going for 12, a perfect dozen tonight against Kansas City. More on that coming up later on in the show. All right, we spent the last segment chatting portal stuff. Now, the other big topic that we do in this show is realignment. And there's nothing brewing right now. I can tell you, because we haven't chatted about this. Obviously, I was gone for last week, and I know there was some buzz. When I was in Nashville, people were asking me about what's going on, North Dakota State, Mountain West. Is there any heat to it? And I checked the sources that I trust on this, and I know McFeely wrote about this as well, is that Mountain West is nothing is happening right now. And there's still moves to come. I believe that. But Mountain West still has to sort out its lawsuit with the teams that are leaving to go to the new Pac-12, which is happening later this year. We still don't know what the Mountain West television deal is going to look like either, and where that's going to go. That's a big deal as part of this as well. Now, on the Mountain West, there was a tweet put out during the Montana State semifinal game right before Christmas. And it drew a lot of buzz. Said, every time I see the mountain schools get love, I'm surprised Wyoming doesn't consider dropping to FCS. Way better culture fit with the Montanas, the Idahos, and the Dakotas of the world, and might get better exposure playing them instead of the new Mountain West teams. Now, clearly that spurred some chatter here. I'm sure in South Dakota as well. It did certainly in the Montanas for those schools. I don't know about Idaho, but it certainly did at Wyoming. And here's an intriguing part of this. Column was written yesterday by Alex Taylor from WDAY Sports, who covers University of Wyoming. He actually spoke to Wyoming athletic director Tom Berman about the story as well. And this is the part that's interesting to me. Now, well, put this out here. Wyoming is a member of the Mountain West. They're not going anywhere. We know Boise's moving on, San Diego State, Colorado State, Utah State. They're moving on to the new look Pac-12. Wyoming has a steady home. It's not like when Idaho got kicked out of the Sun Belt. Idaho had to basically say we're dropping down to FCS. Wyoming has a solid home. They signed that grant of rights that they're part of the league until 2032. So that's what they're going to be. Now, they've been in 3 bowl games, Taylor points out, since 2021. Postseason time, 8 times since 2009. Big part of that was Craig Bohl when he came in there in 2014. Tom Berman told WDAY Sports this on Monday. The only similarity between Idaho and Wyoming is that the University of Idaho is in Moscow and we're in Laramie. We have the whole entire Front Range. So from New Mexico to Laramie, there's 4 schools playing Division I football. Idaho is more isolated than we are. They don't have the tradition and history. They haven't played in the Sugar Bowl. They haven't played in the Holiday Bowl. They don't have Josh Allen, who's an NFL MVP. We're in a stable conference, stable enough. Taylor goes on to write, there's a preconceived notion that Wyoming could drop a level and immediately compete for championships with schools like Montana State and North Dakota State. But what would a drop to the FCS really look like for football? Berman goes on to say, I don't want to say we'd be just awful, but we see mass transfers. You're also going to see a mass exodus of donors because they're going to feel slighted. I'm a donor. I've given a lot of money to this place. I'd be upset. Obviously, they'd have to drop about 20 to 22 scholarships to go from 85 to 63, which is, of course, the rule of FCS football. Right now, he'd say we're getting $3.5 million in media dollars from the Mountain West. And he says the Big Sky, I don't think they hardly net any money at all. They do have a deal with ESPN. I don't know the exact money amount on that. It's not 3.5. I can tell you that per school. They go on to say, and this is the one part that I disagree with what Berman says about playing Power 4 schools in non-conference. We got paid $1.7 million to go to Texas in 2023. The most an FCS can garner is about $400,000 to $450,000. That is not accurate. The Power 4 schools don't value that game as much as they do a G6 game. Now, that is accurate. But the going rate now for FCS teams against FBS is $700 to more than that. North Dakota State's next FBS game is the University of Oregon, which they're getting north of $800,000 for that one. That's their largest payday that they'll ever receive for a football game. That's the typical going rate right now if teams are scheduling Missouri Valley teams. I have to double check. South Dakota State's got Northwestern next season. I imagine it's in the high sixes. It's not 400, I can tell you that. So Berman's not right on that. Now, here's the point on Wyoming and where they're at in the large picture of things, because I think this part needs to be pointed out. Wyoming's not going to win anything, not in the Mountain West, not where they're currently at right now. That's why I think for fans here, seeing North Dakota State, think, well, we can compete and beat Wyoming in football. Basketball, different story there. And again, I'm not talking all sports. I'm keeping this strictly to football conversation. And the resources that are spent at Wyoming as opposed to what's being spent at Montana State, what's being spent here, what's being spent at South Dakota State, I think is probably more similar than what people realize. Taylor writes, the Cowboys played 8 of their 12 games this fall on national television. Montana State, which just won the FCS championship on Monday, played on national TV 5 times, with 3 of those games coming in the playoffs. Speaking of the playoffs, a common question is, wouldn't you rather be playing in the FCS playoffs than sitting at home in the Mountain West? It's a fair question, but let's not pretend Montana State wouldn't rather be playing Wyoming for a spot in the college football playoff instead of beating Illinois State for an FCS championship. That is accurate. I've hammered that. We've been down that road 100 times with the NDSU angle on this, knowing, okay, how many more trips to Frisco could you possibly want? How many more playoff games that you only get 10,000 people? They had 10,000 people here for that game with Illinois State that they lost. So clearly the interest isn't in, new blood coming to the Fargo Dome. Now it's about something bigger than that. And Taylor is spot on that part that, I think Montana State would trade that out. Look at the college football playoff down just a couple weeks ago. James Madison, I know, got beat by Oregon, and Tulane got beat by Ole Miss. But the point is they had a chance to play in the game. You want the opportunity. Yeah, if you get your brains beaten, okay, because I know there's this talk out there that, well, the G6 are going to lose their spots. And we had Bill Connolly on about this last month, and I would encourage you to go back and watch it. They are contractually obligated to have them in there, right? They're not going to get rid of them. They can't. They get sued on that. So until that materializes, and I'm sure they're going to have a new format for next season because they're going to expand, the G6 is always going to have a spot, at least one spot, and that's what you're fighting for. And that's why Wyoming says that's why we're going to stay FBS. No matter the monetary challenges that go with it, it beats being FCS, and they're exactly right on that. So the answer to our questions, should Wyoming drop down to FCS? No. Even if they're struggle at that at 4-8 like they were this year, they still outdrew Montana State. It's still the biggest deal in the state of Wyoming, much like North Dakota State football. Biggest thing in the state here. And it could be if they decide that they get that invite, if it ever comes for the Mountain West Conference. I would believe that wholeheartedly that would be the case. And it's an interesting test case on that. I know off McFeely's point on this, and he wrote about it, and it's on Inforum now, because he said, Berman said that Montana and Montana State are begging for invitation to the football bowl subdivision Mountain West Conference. Now, it says the better question is, why are Montana State begging to get into the Mountain West? I can tell you that the top tier of FCS is willing to pay money to join the Mountain West Conference. That is absolutely, I would say, accurate, at least at the top tier. McFeely reports that a Mountain West source called Berman's description hyperbole and said the Montana schools are not begging, adding that they might have an interest in going FBS but haven't been as forward about it as NDSU, which we certainly know about that. That, to me, is the intriguing part. Not Wyoming moving down. It's who can go and join them in the new look Mountain West. We know Northern Illinois will be there. We can say now later this year because it's 2026. UTEP, that all those changes become official on July 1. I just thought seeing that after that tweet went out there, and it caused – I saw it during the Montana State game about Wyoming. I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand the premise of it, but no, you don't want to go down. You want to be part of that club. No matter what that club looks like, you're still there. That's why the teams that moved up, like Liberty and JMU and Jacksonville State and Sam Houston and Delaware and Mo State, we can roll their eyes, and I lamented all of those moves on this program, one way or the other. Like, boy, should be awfully not, because they're in the club. You're there. No matter what, you're part of that ultra-exclusive club. And if you're on the outside, basically you're like looking in through the window like, we want to be in there. And that's why they would never consider doing that. Unless they got kicked out, they would never consider dropping down. That's why I thought spot-on column there on what's happening. The only thing I dispute is the Berman quote on what the FCS teams are getting paid, because it's way more than $400,000 to $450,000, unless you're a bad FCS team. The top ones in the top 20, like Montana State, they got paid handsomely for that game at Oregon. I was talking with Leon Costello, their AD, when we were in Nashville last weekend about their other FBS games. And frankly, the game with the Bison in Vegas, they're getting over $1 million for that. There's good reason on what's going on there. All right, we're overdue for a break. Let's catch up here. We'll wrap up our first hour. Good stuff there. Appreciate getting a little runway to chat about that. We haven't done that in a bit. We'll wrap up hour one of Hot Mike on a Thursday morning right after this. Oh, a breaking news sounder to bring us back here on this Thursday morning. We've got another NFL head coach opening. Adam Schefter reporting here just a few minutes ago. The Dolphins have fired Mike McDaniel. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross met with McDaniel this week to discuss the season. After that meeting and reflection, Ross decided to move on. So another opening here. Dolphins obviously underachieved this season. They put out a statement here to the owner, Stephen Ross. After careful evaluation, extensive discussions since the season ended, I made the decision that our organization is in need of comprehensive change. So here are the head coach openings now. Miami, Baltimore, the Giants, the Titans, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Browns, and the Raiders. If I do some quick math, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a quarter of the league, folks. There's 32 teams. 8 of them now are going to have new head coaches. The Dolphins are doing the whole shebang because they got rid of their GM as well. They and the Falcons have openings there. So Mike McDaniel, which we thought might be a candidate, and nothing was said there, is staying on. And that Dolphins were 7-10 this season. Distant third in the AFC East, light years ahead of the last place team of the Jets. But they got a decision on quarterback as well with Tua Tagovailoa, what they're going to do there. because Tua's owed a ton of money for next season and obviously was benched at the end of last year. Quinn Ewers started the last couple games. That's where Cam Miller ended up obviously signing off the practice squad from the Raiders. The Dolphins picked him up for the last week of the season. So there you have it. Again, and that's not to say there won't be some changes maybe with the teams that made the playoffs as well. I mean, there's rumor out there with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, with Matt LaFleur and the Packers, which is just crazy to me, but that's the way this works in the National Football League. You never can tell if you're going to be safe there. So that's one move that's been made here so far today. Mike McDaniel is done. An 8th job now open. The one that's still the surpriser is Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, all he did was win with Baltimore, and they decided to move on there. Another starting FCS player gone. Montana starting defensive tackle Jared Ramos is in the portal. Just announced that a little while ago. That's the thing to me, is to watch the very top players. Montana State, teams I should say. Montana State, the Jacks, the Bison. Put Illinois State in that mix, so they've lost more than a handful of guys now. On how many they end up losing? Bison have lost 7, all impact guys. You're not going to go and replace 7 guys through the portal. Just not gonna work. And I'll tell, South Dakota State can look exactly like that. The Jackrabbits obviously lost 30 guys, and Dan Jackson added a bunch, right? Some worked out. I'd say how many? 5, probably, if we're being sincere on it, that worked. The rest, probably on his own team, the guys that were recruited and stayed, those are the ones that ended up excelling. And that's what I'd point to if you're a Bison fan, Montana State fan. Sure, it's flashy when a team adds players. There's no doubt. I would look to the younger players on said roster now for an opportunity there. I would think that's the best opportunity and best chance to have a way to play and get on the field and excel. I think NDSU and SDSU are certainly excited about their younger classes of guys that have a chance to get through and get on the field this year, rather than, not to say disparaging things about the guys they're adding, but sometimes they're adding just, hey, we got to have a body here, rather than this guy has to be an impact guy. I think Alex Elliott was one they added late last year, North Dakota State, in April. And obviously Alex got hurt early in fall camp and didn't play this entire season. I think he was trending in a way where they think he can help them. That's a drop-down guy that they believe can step in at linebacker in 2026, and if he gets this year, I'm assuming a redshirt season, still has 3 years of eligibility, can really help them. DJ Scott dropped down from Kennesaw State, although some would argue, and I would be one of them, I don't know if Kennesaw to NDSU is necessarily dropping down, but that being said, certainly looked like a guy that could perform and be a good FCS running back for NDSU. I think South Dakota State certainly in the past has found that guys that are moving up from an NAIA or Division II experience or D3 to come to Division I, those are the ones that have really made impacts. And that's something to keep an eye on, I think, going forward. Not taking away from the guys dropping down. Just keep the ones that are moving up. That's the one to pay attention to. All right, we'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Sam Goetzinger will join us. Chat with Sam about a variety of topics. And Jory Collins joining us as well in hour 2. Back on a Thursday morning edition of Hot Mic right after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Let's take a moment and talk about bunions. The original line read as this: Bunions. You may have heard of them. That was my original line.
Hey, thank you, Dom. Johnny Cool Guys there with the sunglasses on.
That was off the dome. To
the west of
when
Illinois.
I'm looking on it, like my okay, west. I shouldn't say right and left. Is that Missouri?
That is Missouri.
Yes.
That is
It's underneath
Missouri.
Iowa.
Way to go.
I'm getting good at this.
He's coming.
So we're going to like the bottom peninsula region.
Peninsula.
Okay, we're going to come back on the ETSU tailgate and then go to you. How am I going to go from a tailgate to Bunions? Okay, good deal. Let's take a moment and talk about Bunions.
All right, here he is. I can say this. Happy New Year. This
I was going to say it to you, too. I heard you said, this morning we have until noon?
January 8th.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
All right, so first off, thank you so much for filling in for me last week.
No
Sounds
doubt.
Like everything went well.
I hope I just kept the chair warm. That's all I could ask for.
I do have to address something, though.
Yes.
In the trash can next to me is overflowing.
You saw that, huh?
With coffee. It's still there. I got to ask the custodian
Is
to
there
come
still
in
a bunch in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's energy drink. It's unbelievable.
I'm not a morning guy.
How many
Believe
did
it
you-
or not.
How many of these do you drink for show?
So here's the thing. I don't like coffee. I'm not a coffee guy. And now the trash can
I'm not
speaks differently. That's for
correct.
sure. And granted, now I'm on a kick because I had some this morning too. I'm not a morning guy. So my routine when I fill in for you, I get down here around 8:30, immediately go to the little kitchen we got back there, and they have little, and I don't drink warm coffee. I drink cold iced coffee. So they got those in a can, and so I have to have at least one in the morning to get me ready and wake up here. And then
another one maybe during the show?
Well, is there that many in there?
It's overflowing in here.
Well, there's quite a few. I'm not a coffee guy either. I don't know where my obsession comes from in the morning when I come here to do the show. But
hey, whatever you got to take.
I was
to get the show
hoping
done, right?
I was hoping that the garbage would have been taken out before you got here because I didn't want anybody to see that.
I noticed that when I came in on Monday. I'm like, wow, Sam needed a little extra boon here to get the show done.
I struggle in the mornings. I tell you that much, and that's my little pick me up.
Well, it's great to have you back here in studio. But Brody, my mic sounded a little weird. I don't know if my mic is on or not. It just sounded kind of hollow in my ears, by the way. All right, so let's start first couple things here. Illinois State won the national championship. What'd you make of the game on Monday night?
Well, I wrote them off pretty quick, which I come to learn shouldn't have done that based off of what they've done this postseason. Yeah. Ended up being a really fun game to watch. They dominated the second half, and that's when they took over there. Yeah, right, exactly. It almost seemed, I don't want to say cookie cutter because they didn't have 5 interceptions, a couple of pick sixes, and a punt return touchdown given up in the FCS championship game like they did against North Dakota State, but they dominated time of possession in the second half. They kept the ball away from Montana State. They made the plays defensively that they needed to make, and man, I really thought they were going to pull it out. But special teams, believe it or not, is important, and it just wasn't clicking.
Would you have gone for it there at the end of the game? At the end of regulation when it was 4th and 1, and they decided to try the field goal.
I would have, knowing the weapons I have, that Rittenhouse, he can get a yard. Wanker's Wright could probably get a yard. Victor Dawson could get a yard. Sopkowitz could. Dylan Lord definitely could. Plenty of weapons there. I understand the flip side of it as well of trying to go for the kick, and just getting yourself back into it. But
I would have gone for it simply to get a closer field goal.
That's
38
true.
yards is still a long way for a college kicker.
That is fair, especially one with, what was he, a redshirt freshman who was kind of thrown into the system late. But yeah, that's one that Coach Spack's going to have to live with, as you've mentioned throughout the week. That's tough. But those are those. We talk about it, 5 or 6 plays in a game? You can throw that in there. Right. That's one of them. Yeah. That's one of them that you're going to be sitting on thinking about.
Now, here's the other side of it. As I'm looking here, Illinois State has lost 3, 4, 5 guys.
Yeah, not surprised.
And not run of the mill. They're really good players that are going to enter the portal now.
I think once Dylan Lord got up to about 10 catches, I thought, okay, well, he's in the portal. People are going to be knocking on his door.
It's so similar to what Bryce Lance did in the championship game, right? Everybody's at home watching this game.
Right.
Well, I want to go get number 5 out there. Right. The same thing about Lord.
I think you could say that when Bryce Lance, what was that? He made that over-the-shoulder kind of falling down catch.
Yep.
All right. Well, people are going to be going for him. If they didn't know about him then, they know about him now. That's for sure. And Dylan Lord is definitely in that conversation.
Yeah, it's the catch-22 of it all, which is a tough deal on that. And I'm intrigued to see what they do next season. They had a ton of seniors that they had a great run. Can they replicate that going forward? It's one thing. Is it a flash in the pan, or are they now in the conversation with the other FCS elites? Depending,
because I guess I'm not familiar with the talent that they've recruited and are bringing up. I think it might be a flash in the pan situation.
find
That's
out.
a really good senior class they're leaving. That had a lot of really good talent. Now, I'll be curious if this run brings more people out of the woodworks and brings more dollars to Illinois State. Sounds like it has already.
Yeah, they got an anonymous quarterback donor to give him $2.5 million, which is a good start.
Yeah,
that helps.
That'll help any NIL fund for retaining or getting players out there. But good team. I guess we'll have to see what's officially coming back once we get closer to 2026. But I love this story. I love an underdog story like that, and then going and proving that they belonged in there like they did in that national championship game. So props to them on a solid season.
Watching it on television, you were in Frisco last year. What did you make of Nashville, the hosts?
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I thought the environment looked pretty neat.
Pretty good.
You could tell up in the corners that it was not all the way filled up there, but that's a pretty big stadium to fill up.
35,000 is asking a lot.
Yeah.
If North Dakota State had been there, I think, or South Dakota State, I think they would have done it, but that's a lot of people there.
The one, I guess, two glaring things to me watching on TV, and it has nothing to do with the game itself. The center logo at midfield looked bigger, and the end zones weren't fully painted in. That's what I was confused about.
When we were there on Saturday, and they were doing the actual painting, they didn't paint the entire end zone, which we were worried they weren't going to paint them at all, because when I joined you on Friday, they had none of the marking. They had not done any of the painting yet. They did that Saturday morning. That was something I know that people took, I don't know if issue is the right word. They were interested on that.
Right.
And the Vanderbilt,
it wasn't the end of the world by any means.
The Vanderbilt V is huge. That's why the NCAA logo had to be that big.
That
or
makes
even
sense.
Bigger, because the V in the middle of the field is.
And I'm not saying
small.
I had any problem with the line. That's just one thing that I noticed. But I thought it looked. I thought it looked good. I think the time slot is still perfect. I think the time of day
we'll find
is still
out
perfect.
if they can keep that going.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. What with college football playoffs and everything?
I imagine they're going to expand, and the NCAA was hopeful that ESPN would do this again, but you never know how that's going to shake out. The FCS is not on the high priority.
No, absolutely not. But that game definitely got a lot of people talking on social media that maybe weren't watching FCS football before. Now they have a little taste of it. So it was a good promotion for the league.
I reached out to ESPN yesterday. They said, Dom, we're still waiting on the info from Nielsen. I'll let you know once we hear. That's about the ratings for the game and peak viewing time. Because I think, obviously, whatever it was, 9:15 to 9:45 is going to.
I would imagine
really good. I would think.
At start of the second half. I thought once.
I'm just talking the end of the game. Like
end of the game. Absolutely.
So that was
absolutely.
9, right? It was like 9:15.
Yeah, I suppose that game started earlier than I thought it did. Yeah. I thought at the end of the first half, when Illinois State got some points up on the board and then Montana State went down in 3 plays, it was over.
21-7.
I thought it was done. That leap over the defender, the dive into the end zone,
really good.
And how efficiently they did it. I thought, they're going to come out of break. Montana State is and just roll in the second half, but that wasn't the case.
So you were hosting last week and going through the news of the Bison players that departed. Was there anyone that said, "Whoa, I was not expecting that one to go"?
Oh, I guess. Our guy Caleb Bowers, that's one. I wasn't expecting that, but
long snapper,
props to him. Props to him for finding an opportunity at a high level.
I know his dad watches the show. Really, I don't know if they're going to keep doing that now that he's moving on.
I hope so. I hope so. Caleb was fantastic just to get to know down on the sideline. Jeff and I talked about it last week too. For some reason, when you're down on the sidelines, obviously you get to know the specialists a little bit more,
no doubt,
because there's a little bit of free time, between the two parties there. So getting to know Eli was cool too. And his story and just kind of what goes into his kicking process. So that was one. I guess it's not so much a player I was surprised by. I think it's more so the destinations. And I don't know if surprised is the correct word for it. Like when Bo Johnson chose Vanderbilt, at first I would thought, oh, that's interesting. And maybe because that's a little part of me still thinks is Vanderbilt as definitely the little brothers of the SEC, but that's not the case anymore. You saw their facilities on full display in the championship game. As you've mentioned, they've got NIL money. Who their quarterback's going to be, that'll be intriguing.
They'll pay for somebody good.
Right. I was a little surprised by Toby to Colorado.
Yeah, join Dion.
And then I remembered, Boulder is fantastic.
It was really good.
Yep. That was cool. And I imagine they have some NIL funds as well. Granted, their program isn't getting a ton of wins these days, but what is that? We'll see. We'll see if that turns around. So I was slightly surprised by that, and then I realized, that's a pretty good destination.
So of the 7 starters, 6 of them have destinations. Jaquise Alexander is the one we don't know yet. So Caleb Bowers is going to Florida State. For
Good
those
for
that
him.
don't know,
Yeah.
he's going to go long snap at Florida State.
Good for him.
Osic's going to Iowa.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal.
Yep.
You mentioned Toby's going to Colorado. Duffy is going to go to Central Florida. Fraley at Michigan State. And Bo Johnson at Vanderbilt. There's none of those that say, why would you ever leave NDSU for there?
Right. Exactly. 100%. And you said it today, and I said it last week, too, about the people that may be wondering why would offensive linemen leave North Dakota State. And I totally agree with you. You're exactly right. It's not anybody else's decision, but the player and the people that they have in their corner.
Each individual background is so different.
Absolutely.
Zabel's background was completely different than Bo Johnson's.
Right. There's no doubt about that.
And I'm sure the money was similar, but the background is completely different there.
Right. And Fraley, I thought Iowa State was a lock to go to that with the connections there with Coach Roll, but Michigan State, you're closer to home, and I'm sure you're getting money on that too. And if you would have offered me money like that when I was in college, I don't care what my situation was, I would have been out the door as well. That's a significant amount of money we're talking.
Now, we have a week to go. A week from tomorrow is when it will close. And I started the show with this because there's still a handful of guys we don't know officially if they're going to be back or not. Is it time yet to exhale or not yet?
I feel like yes, because we're
Crumbie
getting kind of late in the game
the big
here.
one.
Yes.
Crumbie and Logan Larson.
Yes. So we haven't heard from them, but you said it as well. I feel like we're kind of late in the game. Yes, we have another week here, but teams have already gone out and done their shopping. I'm sure there's going to be more players picked up, no doubt about that. There's thousands of players in the transfer portal to choose from.
But you mentioned this to me. Logan especially is not he knows social media, so he has not officially put it out there.
Right.
He plays a position that is a prime spot, defensive tackle. I mean, hey, if he wants to tell, he can text me now. Text you.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm coming back,
He's got
or
our numbers.
one way or the other.
That's true.
But that to me, here we sit. What are we now? 8 days out. Those two are the ones on my list that we haven't heard from yet if they're coming back.
And you and I were talking about this yesterday. Staling, have we gotten the official?
There's no official
word?
there. I mean,
a change of the Twitter profile picture is not enough for me to get the job done. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's the world that we have to be ready for. But if that's what we're going off, saying that Staling's still around, I need a more official word.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So those are the three that guys have played. Other ones are guys that have not played or barely played or redshirt freshmen because I have my official total at 81. 81 guys have made it known that they're going to come back.
And that's pretty good.
Of the 81, they can still change their mind between now and next Friday.
That is true.
There's nothing solidified there.
So if we're thinking about that, then maybe don't exhale yet. But I still firmly believe we're kind of late in the game in this. I don't know if I'm just sitting in that boat alone or not. But if you haven't made your decision yet,
true,
you might want to get it done pretty soon, don't you think?
Yes, but I'll just throw that out that you never know who can get fired.
Yeah, that's true.
NFL jobs are now going to happen. So NFL might look at a college coach, say, "Hey, we'd love you." Opens up a job there, and then look out.
There's a whole trickle-down effect. Yeah, I suppose I wasn't thinking about that.
That's
that makes
all
sense.
I'm saying. We still, Mike McDaniel, we'll talk about this in the next segment, just got canned. There's all sorts of dominoes that we don't even know could unintentionally fall from that. Just, again, you can breathe easy if you want, but do it at your own peril, I would say, is my own thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm still in the firm belief that we're getting close, but there is a lot of trickle down that could happen within the next week.
Gone on for quite a while since the Bison season ended on December 6th. Here we now are a month later. It's January 8th, and I think for a lot of our viewers, they're ready for me to be done on this subject. I frankly am as well, but you have to discuss it.
Absolutely.
It's what's going on.
Absolutely.
All right, let's break. We come back. I want to hit a little basketball chatter with Sam and chat about the ever-moving stuff that's going on in the NFL. That's coming up on the other side of the break. We're back after this. That was loud.
Yeah, that came in hot.
Welcome back, everybody. Sam giving us a few more minutes here before he has to go get a coffee again.
Yeah, got to restock.
We got work tonight.
We do.
Bison women have their Summit League opener tonight with Kansas City. Sources indicate that they're good. The Bison have won 11 games in a row.
That's not bad.
We're going to talk more about that with Jory Collins coming up. But they handled last weekend. They had never swept that Oral Roberts Denver roadie. ever because Denver came into the league in 13, and Oral Roberts, they had one since 2009.
Right.
So they had never done it.
What was that, 6,000 days is over that, which you tweeted out?
6,400 days since the last time they beat Oral Roberts in Tulsa.
And some of the players on the roster were, what, 2 or 3 years old?
Okay, so it's 2009. It's now 2026.
No,
so
don't make me do math.
That's 17 years. So let's say Jossie Schiller is 19 years old or 20. That makes her 3.
That's
a
long time. That's a long time. No, they handled that all really well. Good shooting performance down in ORU, especially from Abby Kraswinski. Got a little dicey down the end, but they pulled it out, and then they just put the foot down on Denver.
I want to ask, because we'll talk more about the women here in our next segment. You were at the Oral Roberts men's game. I was following it on my phone. First off, wild ending to that game.
That was crazy. And part of me wasn't surprised because anytime NDSU and Oral Roberts square up, it seems like it doesn't matter what the record is.
Normally a pretty good game.
There's going to be a solid game. Now, last year they had a game like it was a lot more high scoring and it went into overtime.
That's right.
That's
right. I totally forgot that.
Right.
Yep.
And then this year was different. What, 50 points going into overtime?
It was like 57 all going to overtime.
Right. And this game this past Saturday, Oral Roberts, give them credit. They turned into the hottest three-point shooting team that you could imagine. when the moment needed to be met, they were able to knock the three down. But NDSU, they hung around and feel good for Noah Feddersen getting that final bucket. He played a lot in that double overtime period just to get a new face out there and see what he could do down low. And he had the size advantage, got the put back up there, and granted what he's been through this season may not have been the start to the season that he would have wanted, and Trayson Anderson taking over that starting role, but good for Feddersen to come in and get the game-winning bucket.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens going forward here with this weekend. Kansas City will be a rock fight tonight, and then Omaha is going to be really hard because Omaha at home is tough. They lost their first 2 games. They got UND tonight. That's going to be a battle. The Bison should have won that game last year in Omaha and didn't, and that was a good team last year. Let's see where we're at come Monday of what the Summer League standings are.
That'd be I'll be interested to see what's going to happen here after the weekend. I think St. Thomas is legit.
I watched their game last night. We had the highlights to start the show. They're
pretty good.
They're good, man. That arena looks fantastic.
Oh, I know. It is legit.
There.
And if you think they're good now and they're handling recruiting well now, just wait until that's a more established thing. But they're legit. I'll be curious to see where UND is at the end of the weekend here, how they handle this trip here with Omaha and Kansas City.
Email comes in, going back to our last topic. You guys want to ask, would you have voted Dylan Lord the most outstanding player of the game even though Illinois State lost? I did.
Yeah.
I still have a vote. Yeah. Lampson
Either
got
that
it.
or Taco Dowler.
So Lampson got it. And traditionally, it does go to a quarterback.
Right.
I'm trying to think of the last time. I mean, it might have been Hunter Lipke. Lipke won the most outstanding player in 21 when the Bison beat Montana State, and he had 3 touchdowns and ran over a couple guys.
Yep.
I think every year since then, it's been a quarterback that has won the most outstanding player of the game.
Who's going to get those
Cam
awards?
Did it last year.
Yep.
I would have voted. I did vote Lord.
Yeah.
I thought he was the best player on the field. He had the best game.
Hands down. I would have gone him, and then I would have gone Taco second. That's
because
my
think
opinion.
of that in the hockey sense. Like Connor McDavid won the Conn Smythe a couple years ago. Now that's playoff MVP. It's not the finals MVP, even though Edmonton lost the Stanley Cup final to Florida.
Unbelievable playoff stretch.
And he didn't come out for the award, which I don't blame him. The Panthers are celebrating the Stanley Cup.
Right.
That's the last time I can remember like a major award
Yeah,
given to
I'm trying
a player
to
on
think.
a losing team in a championship.
I'm trying to think if there's
like you don't do it.
been
The
others.
NBA Finals never gives it to a guy who lost the
have they
finals.
done it in the World Series recently?
I can't remember that. Hockey's the only one I can think of, and that's a playoff. It's not the final. Like the Super Bowl.
You got to look at the full body of work.
Like the Super Bowl MVP doesn't go to a guy who lost the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know?
Well, it usually goes to some obscure player over in the Super. They're not afraid to give it to somebody else in the Super Bowl
Traditionally,
MVP.
they've done that, which is all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike McDaniel's out of a job. Miami, so we have 8 head coaching openings.
That's quite a few.
Your team is staying
they kept him.
solid.
They kept them all. They kept the GM. They kept
So
Ballard, and they kept Shane
The owner,
Steichen.
though, said they put him on blast that, hey, we're You're on the clock here when you win.
Yeah. She held a press conference. I didn't watch the entire thing. I think I stopped, and maybe part of it was out of frustration when she said we're going to keep everybody, which is...
Are you ready to move on from Ballard and Steichen?
That's the general consensus.
Okay.
More so Steichen than I am Ballard. I guess Ballard's part of the decision-making process more than Steichen. But I like Ballard. I like what he's done. I like what he's done drafting. I don't like what he's done giving up a draft pick. We're not going to see them in the first round for a couple of years. But
not ideal.
Not ideal. I thought it'd be all right to move on and from that regime and try to get a fresh start. But if we're going to give them one more year, we'll see how it goes. But I don't love how that season ended. It was a tough pill to swallow, losing 7 straight.
Who's winning this weekend of the wild card games? Who you got?
Oh, let's see. You're gonna have to remind me of the wild card games right now. I told you in the mornings. I'm not good in the mornings.
So we got Chicago and Green Bay is one.
Chicago.
Okay,
I'll go with Chicago.
We got Rams, Panthers.
Rams.
Okay.
Go with Rams.
Bills, Jags.
See, that one's tricky because the Jags have been really hot. I'll go with Jacksonville in that one.
Eagles, Niners.
Eagles.
Okay.
I've given up on the Niners.
Patriots, Chargers.
Patriots.
Okay. And then Monday night is the Steelers and the Texans.
Oh, that one's tough, too. I'll go Texans.
There are 2 AFC South teams, and neither one of them are the Indianapolis
Colts.
Colts.
Neither one of the team that was the 1 seed in the entire AFC for
That's tough,
vast
man.
majority of the season.
I hear you. That feels like what the Mets did this year in baseball.
I think
the Mets were were first place until August, and then September and couldn't get it out of their own way.
Right. What hurts more is that the Vikings have a better record at the end of the season than the Indianapolis Colts.
See,
that stings.
And I thank you for that because the Jets have the Colts pick, so that launches us up for a higher pick.
We really did everything to help you guys out after that Sauce trade.
I'm more than upset that the Vikings won their last 5 games. What are you doing?
I agree.
Because now you're in no man's land in the draft.
Right.
You're picking 18th.
Yeah,
you're not in the top 10, and you're not at the back end. You're right in the middle.
Right. That's the highest pick can get when you're not in the playoffs. And I don't know. Maybe unpopular hot take. I wouldn't have played JJ last week.
He pulled himself out of the game anyway.
Exactly. So what good did you prove in that situation?
The last thing on this, and I'll just say it because we're going to 18 games. They're going to have to figure out a way to make the end more competitive because there were too many games on Sunday that were like it was preseason on steroids to me.
Right, exactly. That I was sitting there watching that thinking the same thing.
And if we're going to go to 18, so we're going to have 2 weeks potentially of this? Unless you're going to add another playoff spot.
Right.
Which they very well could do that.
They definitely need to make that end of the stretch because I went and got groceries Sunday at noon, which I would never do.
No?
But I didn't care what was going on. I didn't care what was happening in the Colts game. It was over.
Yeah, there was only a handful of games that obviously the Sunday night game mattered,
yes,
which is why they put it on.
Tuned in.
And the Saturday games mattered.
Yeah, so from Saturday night to Sunday night, there was nothing.
You can't have Sunday not be relevant
right.
if you're that. And that's something they're going to have to address if they go to I'm not going to say when they go to 18 because they're going to do that. All right, we got to roll. Great job. Thanks so much for filling in last week. You did a fantastic job.
No doubt.
You can take out the coffee anytime you want here.
I want to get the room smelling like coffee a little bit.
We'll see you tonight, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sam Goetzinger joins us each and every Thursday at 10. We'll break. We come back. Jory Collins on the other side of the break. Bison women back in action tonight. We'll preview that when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back, everybody. Don't forget, we've got college basketball tonight here on WDAY Extra. Kansas City, North Dakota State. Live coverage here on the X begins at 7 o'clock. Summit League home opener for the North Dakota State women. And it's a perfect segue to our Thursday 10:30 guests as North Dakota State women's basketball coach Jory Collins joins us. Bison in action tonight. Winners of 11 in a row as they welcome in Kansas City. I tweeted this nerd stat out after the game last Thursday night. North Dakota State had not won in Tulsa in 6,000 days. Can you describe? I mean, you got players on your team that were like 2 or 3 years old the last time that happened.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, Dom. You know, I've had a couple people ask me about that. You know, part of that's just they've been a really good team since we've been here for the most part, and good teams win at home a lot. You know, we've had some really close ones there.
Yep.
I can remember a couple specific ones that were down to the last 30 seconds. We didn't pull out. We've also got our butt kicked there a couple times too. So, you know, I think our players went into the break knowing that's who we had afterwards. I thought they approached our St. Mary's game with the right mentality of, hey, let's get locked in and tuned back up. League play starting here in just a couple days, and then really made a concerted effort to go 2-0 on the road to start conference play.
And I know you were visiting with Sam about this last week, and then to bounce back and win the game the way you did at Denver. Just describe flying home Saturday night, what that accomplishment's not the right word. I guess let me ask, what was the feeling flying back to Fargo after that game?
Obviously, just, you know, very happy with how we played. And I was happy for our players. I mean, anytime you sit down and you say, hey, we want to go 2-0 this weekend, we want to go sweep these two teams. I think a lot of times those are easy things to say in a locker room or in a meeting setting. And then, you know, to actually have to go out and do it where there's a whole group of other people trying to prevent you from doing that is a different thing. So, you know, on what's usually probably the least fun road trip that we have as far as travel and all that stuff, to be able to come out of there 2-0 and not only just be 2-0, but to start conference play at two places that have been difficult for us to play at over the years, and to go play well there, I thought was great for our team. And I think they, you know, are obviously pleased.
When you're doing that and you're not in a hole to start league play, how big a deal is that?
Well, you know, it's whatever it is, 16 games, Dom.
Yeah.
I think there's, you know, and we've reminded our team, you know, hey, what's won the league the last 3 years? You know, that kind of is what it is. I don't know if it'll be that way this year. Nobody knows that, but, you know, you got to be pretty good in league play if you're going to have a chance to win it. And going and winning road games is probably the difference. You know, we've always been really good at home lately. We expect to play well at home. Not that we win every game there, but we expect to win a lot of games at home. And the difference is, can you go get some on the road? And again, just to start that way is really, really nice for league play.
I was visiting with Avery Coonan Tuesday when we were up at media availability, and I asked her about the after the Nebraska game. Did you notice anything just, you know, contextually or just psychologically with your team that you played really well in that game? I know you didn't win, but that there was a different level of confidence that came out of that game after you played in Sioux Falls?
Well, I think so. That was a game, you know, Nebraska is very good basketball team this year. And up until that point, they were blowing everybody out by a wide margin, and they were blowing people out before the first media. And I remember, you know, our coaches together specifically told our kid, hey, it needs to be a game at the 5-minute mark of the first quarter. We need to be right in there competing. And not only did we do that for the first 5 minutes, I thought we played them really, really tough for a vast majority of that game. And I think that did give our team some confidence. Obviously, Avery was a monster in that game, but we had a lot of other players play well, make basketball plays. And if we would have shot the 3-ball any better in that game, Dom, that would have been a possession-by-possession game down the stretch. So I think it did give us some confidence that, hey, we got some ability to play with high-level teams. And, you know, we talked after that, hey, we got a chance here. If we can get I think it was the Tulane game right after that on a Friday night, man, if we can show up, you know, after the Nebraska game, play well at home there, that's a chance for us to get some momentum going. And we've kind of grasped onto that and gained some.
I know you know baseball well. They never talk about win streaks. Is that something that goes unsaid of what's going on with your team right now?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said one thing about it. I know that's your job to bring it up and talk to our players about it, but I really believe in our leadership of our group, Dom, that they really do just listen. They take it one day at a time. We show up to practice. We try to be fairly routine in how we approach things, so there's a comfort level in your approach every week, and you're just comfortable with what we're doing. And then we try to coach them really hard and coach them up to be prepared, and then it's your job to go out and execute, and you try to put what you've done in the past behind you and go out and play each game individually. And they've done a good job of that.
How difficult is that to do in the modern era of college basketball, especially when everything's right in front of you to see it and people are telling you how great you are? How difficult is that as a coach to kind of siphon that out and keep that away from your players?
Well, I can tell you, for me, Dom, I don't do a ton of social media. I don't interact on there. I don't engage in a lot of stuff. So I don't go into our meetings or practices and talk about that stuff either. So they never hear any of that from me. Obviously, they're young. They're on everything. I'm sure they see, read, hear, and get all the things that are, being talked about our team and people in the league and all those things. But I just don't engage in that. It makes me a happier person. I'm just much more dialed in on our own team and trying to be the best we can be. And however good that is going to be good enough.
We got to talk about what Jossie Schiller has meant to your team. And I know Kolpak was up there talking about her assist to turnover ratio and how she leads your team on the floor. We discussed this in the offseason when she transferred and signed with you about her, first off, her ability. She never gets tired. Second, her ability to, I think, to go to the basket and never be undaunted about that. Is there an unforeseen part of her game that maybe you didn't count on or realize that you've seen through the first 3 months of the year?
Well, yes. I don't think it's anything like physically, Dom. I think, I knew she was a winner from her high school days of cross country, track, basketball, all those things. I think, and when you're around athletics forever, those people that have those kind of traits, they're all kind of the same. They have those things, but I don't know that I knew exactly how much that would impact everybody else on our team and how that would rub off on other players or free up other players, whatever you want to call it. It's allowed other players on our team to play closer to their potential. Just having somebody like that who is making winning plays on both ends, who plays unselfish, who plays with toughness, who goes about her business without, being selfish at all. I mean, it's just about how can we win the game. And that's so refreshing and has been just really, really good for our basketball team.
How long did it take, in your opinion, for her and Marissa, not necessarily get on the same page, but not understand they're both point guards, they're both used to having the ball in their hand, to then gel on the floor?
Well, I mean, it took those first 4 or 5 games for sure. I think Marissa was just, how do I play without the ball here to start? Yep. And, she obviously plays plenty of point guard for us in her 30 minutes a game that she plays. She's also playing lights out
really
this
good.
year.
Yes.
I think we met, had a meeting one day and talked about, hey, you can do all the same things you do with the ball in your hand. You just get a head start now. Just get up the sideline, catch that thing, and be aggressive. And she's done that ever since maybe game 4 or 5. I think she's been way more aggressive without the ball, just learning how to catch it and go. But it's great to be able to interchange those two different plays. Hey, I can yell out there, Riz, you're the one, Jossie, you're the two, and vice versa as many times as you want. They know both spots really, really well, and we can get them in good positions.
Let's chat about tonight's opponent. Kansas City goes without saying. I think for people that follow Bison women's basketball, the Summit League, they know that they have been a thorn in the side. Do you anticipate a similar type of game tonight at the Shack? Yeah,
I do. I mean, that's just the way it's gone a whole bunch of times against them. I wouldn't want to bet another way. They're just super tough. The Bennett sisters have been terrific players since they stepped on campus there at Kansas City, and both have their different strengths, different styles, both of them, but equally effective in what they do. Coach D does a great job of coaching up defense and changing defenses. And then, they put their players in best positions to make plays. And they've just always been a really tough game for us. And I expect nothing less tonight.
The intriguing part to me, I was talking with a couple of your players, and especially with the holdovers, they know full well. I think that's something that I think they're really eager about tonight's game, not necessarily for payback of what happened last year, but they have your full attention, I guess is my point on that.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, they've beat us enough. They beat us twice last year. Yeah. I mean, you know that coming into the game. They got a lot of players back. Some new ones too, like we do, but there's several players there that kicked our butt last year, and there's zero chance we're going into the game tonight overlooking Kansas City with how they've played us in the past. And like you said, I know our upperclassmen for sure are fully engaged today.
I got an email to ask you here. Dom, we asked Jory, South Dakota State got a 2028 commit recently. Is that early or is that typical now in the recruiting timeline? And I know each school is different, Jory, but can you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's early.
Okay.
I think anybody that's committing as a sophomore right now would be called early. Different people have different timelines for themselves and what they want. And, we're pretty deep into the 27 class, but we're starting to get into the 28 class. And I mean, we have offers out there to kids. It just depends on the individual a whole bunch. But I would tell you, yes, that's early.
It's just thinking about that 2028, my mind starts going crazy. But I know we're in 2026 now. But you already have a couple commits for 2027. Is there a timeline that you like to work with? Like, okay, head into your junior year, we want to. If you want to go down this road, we want to know.
It depends. Sometimes it depends on the size of the class.
Yeah.
Our 27 class is going to be a bigger recruiting class just because we're going to be graduating more players next year. We talk about our junior class all the time. I mean, that's a class we're going to have to replace and are trying to do that. So that's bigger. That's going to take maybe a little longer. You get some of them early. We're going to get some of them here in the spring or summer. The people that know they want to come are the ones that commit early.
Yeah.
And they know what they're looking for. And when we have that, they pull the trigger. And so, again, I would just tell you individually, it's a little bit different for each kid.
Speaking of a little bit different before we go, how different is this that you have no playoff football to watch for the next little bit? Are you okay with that?
Well, I actually on Sunday has been helping out with my youngest one's, baseball workouts.
There you go.
Because there's no football to watch. Usually I'm like, no, I'm not going. The Chiefs are on every Sunday for the next 5 weeks. And now I'm like, okay, it's my day off. I got time to go do some baseball for an hour. So it is way different. But I do like the top 10 draft pick.
As if you needed more stuff, you get a top 10 pick out of it, too. Great to see you, bud. We'll see you tonight. Thanks for the time, as always.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Jory Collins joining us here each and every Thursday. Bison in Kansas City coming up tonight here on WDAY Extra. Our coverage begins at 7 o'clock. Looking forward to seeing the Bison here rolling 11 consecutive wins. I'm telling you, folks, come out, watch the games. The Bison are good. Right now, I've just updated the latest net rankings here. And if people don't know, and this is what the net rankings are. I'll get the exact definition of them for you so people understand. It's a ranking of teams based on 5 factors, net ranking, team value index, a whole thing. It depends on who you play, who you're matching up against, who you beat. You get penalized for playing non-Division I teams, right? North Dakota State, as we start Thursday morning, is sitting 49. 49 out of 360 Division I teams. Highest they've ever been. They're ranked 11th in the mid-major poll. Highest they've ever been there. They're 2 spots ahead of South Dakota State, who's sitting at 51. It all comes down to next week. The Bison go to Brookings a week from Saturday. That's the real test that begins. Now, 2 games here you got to take care of. Kansas City's not good. Omaha's not good. You got to win these games. Can't mess around here to get ready for the Jackrabbits a week from Saturday. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll wrap things up. Get you ready. We got a busy Sports Thursday. We got college football playoff tonight with Ole Miss and Miami. We'll preview that and say goodbye after this. All right, wrapping things up here on a Thursday morning. Tomorrow, wrap up the week. We'll do NFL picks with my dad, part of a busy Friday spectacular. Looking forward to our show. Recap everything we see in Summit League Hoops coming up on the show tomorrow. Now, we've got football tonight. Mentioned that. We'll preview that here in a second in what to watch with Ole Miss facing off against Miami, the game we played at the Cardinal Stadium in Arizona. Marty Brown will be back on the field for Miami tonight. Former North Dakota State running back, the Jerry Rice Award winner from a season ago, scored the put-away touchdown in the win against Ohio State on New Year's Eve. Miami is currently a 3-point favorite over Ole Miss, and I think there's a lot of sentimentality around Ole Miss to win this game, knowing full well what has happened behind the scenes with their coaching staff, that Lane Kiffin has left and has taken the LSU job. There's a handful of Ole Miss assistants that are already left or on their way to taking jobs with LSU. It's if you need another sign of what we're doing with college football in 2025 and now 2026, Ole Miss is the perfect poster child for that, because their head coach isn't there anymore, who left a month ago. The new coach was the defensive coordinator, now is the permanent head coach. You've got about 4 or 5 assistants that are literally in between both jobs. It's, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier this week about the calendar, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, and it might be beating a dead horse, but I'm okay with that. You got to fix it. Put it on with if you move even signing day, if you want to put that signing day in the summertime, I'm okay with that, right? So then the commits are locked in, because normally if they commit typically when they do in March, April, May, June, then they're very rarely waffling on that unless something big comes through, especially at the FCS ranks. That then you could have your off-season workouts in June, July. We play the season. Then the portal opens at the end of the school year in May. Boom. How hard is that? Let's just do what to watch before we get out of here. All right, what to watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Again, a reminder, we got hoops tonight. Kansas City, NDSU, 7 o'clock, right here on WDAY Extra. Myself, Sam, and Amy Rulli on the call as the Bison go for a 12th consecutive win. CFP semifinal number 1, 6:30 ESPN, Ole Miss and Miami. Also, we got a big Minnesota sports night. The Wolves are in action against Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs at 7 o'clock. And the Wild wrap up their 7-game roadie against the Kraken at 9 o'clock. Both those games on FanDuel Sports North. Our thanks to Sam Goetzinger and to Jory Collins. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Enjoy the warm Thursday, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.